Welcome to Sports Frenzy with me, Jones. Goodness me, it was only a couple of days since we came on air and we discussed um, the European Super League, and within the space of 48 hours, goodness me, everything has just gone down the drain. Oh, has it? Before we get into it, make sure if you're tuning in, if you're watching us live on Facebook, make sure that you do share, okay? Share, let's hear your thoughts on this because this is massive within football. All right, today, the question we're posing is this: have football clubs owners lost touch with fans? And what is next? What would you like to see happen going forward? Or is this just something where it has been parked, on the back burner for now and it might resurface again? Let's hear your take on it. So, as things stand, the six English clubs have pulled out of the Super League, and also Milan and Atletico Madrid as well. So yesterday, especially Chelsea, I know Chelsea fans were out there demonstrating to the point where Peter Cech had to go and speak to the fans. And within the time of Peter Cech speaking to the fans and going in there, I think 20 minutes later, Chelsea released a statement withdrawing from the Super League. But anyway, enough of me. Let me bring on my guest, John Warrington, sports journalist, and also Idris Adishina, sports pundit. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
I'm well. What a 48 hours. It's been like a tornado
It's really
casting
a
its way
tornado.
through the world of football.
AC
Now,
Milan has AC Milan has just joined them now. Become
okay,
nine clubs.
AC Milan has just joined them. Now, it's funny because when, listening to a lot of commentary about the Super League, and exactly people were saying, yes, it is from pure business point of view. It is sheer greed. And people were saying at the end of the day, these are the owners. They can do whatever it is they want with their clubs. But the fans had a lot to say.
Fans have more than a lot of say. Listen, it's greed. If you look at the list of clubs that were involved, most of them are in huge debt. They're either servicing huge loans. Man United is still servicing rather about £500 million in loans from the leverage takeover 16 years ago. Tottenham have got huge debts over the new stadium. Liverpool want a new stadium. Barcelona, they couldn't pay their wages around the turn of the year. These clubs, we call them the big six or the big 12 or the dirty dozen, whatever you want to call them. They're big in terms of fans. They're big in terms of trophies and history, but they are massive. The majority of them, take out City and Chelsea, they are massive in terms of debt.
And for the past years, Arsenal has not even played in the Champions League. They're losing a hell out of money. So it's and you put that side by side, the side effect of pandemic, then you can understand the magnitude. But that's not a substitute for greediness. I see this as evolution, and I see it as change, because now I can feel the real power. But they made a big mistake. The Premiership is you could do this anywhere in the world. The Premiership is not a place where you go. The Premiership is not just business. Premiership is passion and it's heritage.
To be fair,
And
it's more than the Premier League, though, Idris, isn't it? It's about the fact that they're introducing a closed shop. Now, the fans, from what I gather, weren't on the streets in Italy and Spain, but they were furious. The foreign media was absolutely furious. It's not about the Premier League. It's about the fact that it was a closed shop driven purely by money. The motivation was purely money. It's not just the Premier League. It's every league in Europe. This would have had a seismic effect on every league throughout the pyramids in every single country.
yeah, what I remember the Premiership was that maybe they could get away with having it anywhere in the world, not the Premiership, where football is a passion. And I and Jones were discussing this morning. Somebody We have an heritage of 125 years, 115 years, 80 years that my great grandfather has introduced me to Aston Villa, my great grandmother, and they want to hold purely to that. You just cannot take it away. And we must commend the 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 coordination of this campaign is absolutely tremendous. It's absolutely powerful. The
Listen,
government, the government came out, the fans came out. I didn't see anybody arrested for COVID breakdown.
by some of these clubs, it's a land grab. You think about Arsenal, you think about Tottenham in particular. It's a land grab for them in that you go back to when the Premier League started. Tottenham, Man City, Chelsea weren't in the top five. In those days, it was Man United, it was Liverpool, it was Arsenal. But you had Aston Villa, you had Everton. They were seen as the platinum clubs at the time. And so what some of these clubs, all of these clubs are doing it in many ways, is preserving that status at the expense of everybody else. It's pure and utter greed.
I just want to read this because I couldn't believe it when I actually saw this statement. And this is from the Real Madrid president, Florentino. And I quote him. He said, "Whenever there's a change, there are always people who oppose it. We're doing this to save football at critical moments. Young people are no longer interested in football. Why not? Because there are a lot of poor quality games and they are not interested. They have other platforms on which to distract themselves."
I have no idea if that's the case in Spain. But I tell you what, you go out to playing fields on a Sunday morning
Yeah.
and you see all the kids playing football. A friend of mine was up in Nottingham at the weekend. He used to play for Nottingham Forest, and he went to visit his former junior club when he was a child. They have 40 teams. They have 40 teams. There is nothing wrong with the take-up of football in this country. He is living in cloud cuckoo land.
It's just temporary. It's just completely amazing. I know where you stay, Jones. I know just here in Mitcham, every Saturday and Sunday, my boy even plays football at home. You go beside it, you see almost every little field now is occupied on weekend by footballers. Where did he get his statistics from? The young kids are no longer interested in football. Who told him? No, they are interested in competition. That's the where the Super League is missing.
And that brings me to my question to the both of you. So, is your issue with the Super League based on the fact that there's lack of competition?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And also the way that they went about it. With the Premier League, there was consultation. Listen, not everybody was for the Premier League at the time. I remember that. People didn't want the changes in football. But there was consultation with fans, and over a period of time, before it launched, people had a better understanding of what it was, and everybody was involved in the decision, not the decision-making process, but certainly in the process of understanding what it was all about. And the crucial thing was that the pyramid, which is sacrosanct, the pyramid was kept intact. In fact, it opened up expansion in a different way, because not long afterwards, we had automatic promotion and relegation with the National League as well, as it is called now. So in many ways, it developed the pyramid, and there's been all sorts of restructuring right through to step 7 of the non-league pyramid. And so overall, it's been a positive thing. We all know this isn't about improvement of the game. We all know this isn't about anything else other than greed and just the top clubs playing each other for what they hope would be strong television revenue and strong sponsorship money. There is no consideration for anybody else whatsoever.
If you want to develop football, one of the biggest attraction in football is the ability of the small clubs to play competitive football with the bigger clubs, exchange ideas with them. They sit together, they develop. John talks about the development of football. You know how much the FA benefits the small clubs. You know how much the distribution of resources in the Premiership has gone down, particularly to help the local leagues. to help the disadvantaged leagues. You know exactly what you are getting. You know exactly what you are doing. You have the bigger clubs coming to play in your dirty stadium. You have that attraction. It makes you an inclusion. You feel part of the game. But this isn't just about it. So when he's talking about helping football, you are segregating. You call among yourselves to decide the future of others. And you are saying you are helping the game. You are
Idris,
dictating to them what they want to do.
John, you've mentioned the fact that this is just pure greediness of these owners. And it boils down to the wage structure in the Premier League. And players are getting more and more money, they're costing more. And therefore, clubs will need more money to be able to fulfill that.
Yeah, but Jones, that's such a poor excuse. Clubs can't manage their budgets. That's their problem. They're getting
Right, and that's my point. Should now, after in the aftermath of the so-called Super League, is it time for clubs to really reflect and look at the wage structure?
No, listen, I'm going to take United and Liverpool and Arsenal. These clubs are actually making trading profits. Let's not forget this. They've got huge debts because different reasons, building new stadia, leverage buyouts and so on, but they're making trading profits. The TV money they're getting from the Premier League alone is enormous. The revenues they're getting from that's not just the rights in the UK, it's the rights internationally. I think combined it's about 4 billion almost. Huge sponsorship deals. United have just recently announced a new sponsorship deal with Team Player. I think it's somewhere around about 50 million a year, plus all their other sponsors. These clubs are making revenue, and they're turning over. They're not making a trading loss. The teams that are making the trading losses are the teams in Spain, in Italy. They're not generating the sorts of revenues that the Premier League are, and it makes sense that Agnelli and Perez from Juventus and Real Madrid were very prominent in this because they want a bit of of the gold dust of the English football setup. So I think your question there, Jones, is I can understand why you've asked it, but I think that's more relevant for teams a little bit lower down the scale, and that would have got worse had the Super League gone ahead and the club's been kicked out, because the revenues that were generated partly because of those 6 clubs, they would have reduced and would put more stress on the clubs lower down.
The Premiership is so attractive that even the Rwanda that Britain is giving money to is also giving money to Premiership.
Yeah. Arsenal,
he's giving money to Arsenal. It's almost 30-something million quid every year, annually. So apart from that, you talk about buying of players. Look, Jones, what happens to the model? How many local players, how many players are developed around the trade? How much does Rashford cost? How much does the local players? At one particular point, the British, one of the legacy of British football Premiership is the development of the local players. You see academy players. You see how many academy players have graduated into.
I don't think that was,
and they are doing fantastically well, and that is the credit of Premiership for you. Clubs need to go back into that model. Everything is not about buying and buying and buying, because we've seen so many purchases that are not successful.
That's only changing, though, in part because of Brexit. We can all remember when Chelsea and Arsenal, for example, have fielded a team of 11 foreigners. So it's only something that's changed more recently with changing rules, with the approach of Brexit. Some clubs have always traditionally been strong in developing kids. Tottenham, Man United have got an incredible record going back 75 years. Arsenal, not so much. Now Wenger's gone. Yeah, there's a little bit more, but Arsenal have again fielded teams with non-English players in there. Man City, apart from Phil Foden, who else have they developed? So I'm not sure that some of these clubs are, and I don't think but I don't think it's a uniform thing either. I think I don't think either way it's going to have an impact on Super League or not on policies regarding youth development. Chelsea, they make millions from sending their younger players out on loan. City do as well, and I can't see those policies changing one way or the other because they see them as revenue streams, whereas other clubs see them as real true development and show a lot of foresight because it can save them fortunes in the transfer market, having to pay silly money.
I just want to raise this question, guys, because we also need to look at it from the other side. I mean, the business side. You have business-minded people thinking this was a fantastic idea. Yesterday on my page, a couple of people were saying, look, at least you should give it a go. Do you know what I mean? Let's give it a go. Let's see how it goes, how things will unfold. We're talking about free market here, and for politicians to get involved, because from where I'm sitting, the moment Boris Johnson, MPs started getting involved, I realized that I don't think this is going to have any more legs. I think it's going to be very difficult for things, for the clubs to carry on. Well, and for politicians to get involved, is it not a bit of a double standard here?
No, not
you talk about free markets, if it's their business, and at the end of the day, let's face it, it's all about them making profits.
But it's not a free market. Football clubs have and always been and always will and should be the centre of communities. Manchester United. No, hang on a minute, Jones. Manchester United was bought on a leveraged buyout, which is now illegal. You know that is now an illegal act to do that. Mm. So they haven't actually put a penny into that football club. The business is about community, and that is the understanding of owners when they come in and they make all of these promises. Some keep them, some don't. Others, I have to say, I support Manchester United, and seeing what Manchester City have done in regenerating East Manchester has been incredible. Yes, they're doing it for PR purposes, but they are the acceptable face of a large, well, they're a state, aren't they? Run by the state of Abu Dhabi. Mm-hmm. But essentially, they are the acceptable face of big business doing the right thing. And that's why I was shocked and really disappointed in them when they signed up for the Super League.
Look, Jones, business have ethos. It's part of when we are buying clubs in Premiership, the community development aspect of it is the non-negotiable aspect of it. Because the Premiership cares about the development of job talent.
Well, John just touched on it. Man City have done fantastically well.
If you go to Man City, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I know you've been there. Yeah.
Yes, I've been there. It's fantastic. But what I'm telling you is that Super League, the essence of Super League negates everything about the business ethos. Look, I'm even surprised that they approached the court for right of competition. When you have drawn away some people in the league you have drawn up, and you are going to court to claim competition. Where is the competition in the Super League? No, there's no competition there. And don't forget that no matter how free market it is, businesses are domesticated in each country, in each continent, and you must follow the rules in that place. So in these cases, they've not followed the rules of competition. So there's no way that business model will survive. And again, it's about where is the fans there? Where is the consultation? John mentioned consultation last week. Where is the consultation there? When Premiership was to be done, there were consultations. There were organizations. People were carried along.
And that's such an important point. This is why there's been so much anger, because I think, some of what we're talking about we covered a couple of days ago. And this has been an absolutely seismic couple of days. And Ed Woodward has gone. The whole thing has crumbled as quickly as we heard about it. Ed Woodward, you look at Alexander Seferin, the head of UEFA. He's called, he didn't name individual names, but I've never heard anybody stand up in a press conference and to this extent and call somebody a snake and a liar. Not even in Brexit. During Brexit, with the EU and the British government throwing around insults like that. Not even between the Scottish National Party and the Conservative. And I'll tell you why. Ed Woodward was on the executive committee of UEFA. Ed Woodward was one of the designers of the new Champions League format that they're going to bring in from 20. He wasn't just on the committee. He helped design the thing. And then he goes off like a little weasel to his mates in the Dirty Dozen and tells them what UEFA are doing. Woodward helped design the blooming thing. You know, this new format for the Champions League and the Europa League. He can't be trusted. They're sitting on the Premier League discussing proposals, these people. And then they're taking them away, knowing full well what they're about to do. These men cannot be trusted. And if they and there's got to be some, not against the clubs, there has got to be penalties against the individuals concerned, because they cannot be trusted. They will not be welcomed by any committee.
Sean? What kind of penalties can be?
Well, what fines are going to upset the Glazers or Daniel Levy or Joe Lewis or whoever?
Yeah.
No fines. Personally, I think we have a fit and proper owners test.
Okay.
They pass it once. It should be like a driving license or a passport. It should be reviewed, and if they don't pass it, they should be forced to sell their club. They should be forced to have fan representation on the board as perhaps not as a punishment, because then it's part of the exercise.
I think I agree with you if you say fans representation on board, because clearly they've lost touch with the fans.
Look,
I think
we know what representation looks like in board meetings. You have a pre-board meeting before you come to board meeting. All gagging up against the fans who has a lesser.
I'm not talking about a token board member here. I'm talking about fan representation on the board with a process where no decisions can go ahead without fan approval.
Okay, so right now, where does this leave UEFA? Because as I was speaking to Idris earlier before we came on air, England has never been spoken in the way that UEFA has spoken about English football. Not that I can remember, anyway.
No, very robust.
In as much as other European countries, supporters felt agitated and didn't like the idea, the pressure mostly came from here.
Yeah.
English football, the FA hasn't been popular with the football authorities for donkey's years. The arguments over hosting World Cups, the bribes that have been proven by that FIFA received from Russia and Qatar for the 18 and 22 World Cups, which was exposed by the British media. So listen, English football has, and of course, going back to the 80s, Heysel, which caused a 5-year ban for English clubs playing in Europe. So UEFA have no love lost for English football. However, they've seen the model of the Premier League, and amongst, in UEFA and amongst other football associations in other territories, in other countries, there is a jealousy of the success of the Premier League. We have got some of the finest stadia in the world. We've got some of the finest footballers playing here. We've got some of the finest managers and coaches conducting their trade here. And so their view of English football has been replaced by a sort of grudging respect on the way we've done things. And they want some, as I said earlier, they want some of our gold dust, whether it's the other clubs themselves through a Super League or UEFA, because they know that Manchester United are going to, Man United in the Champions League are going to generate huge TV deals for them.
That's the issue. But again, we must commend the fans, the media in particular, the fans of the Premiership. They stood in unison. It was that you touched our soul, and to drag government to it sealed the deal. When government is quickly thinking of bringing up for the legislation, that they said everything is on the table. This affects everybody. This kills our economy. This kills our youth. This kills everything. And I was just too happy to see the coordination. Now they're falling apart now. The next game is, where do they go from here? Is this all over, or it's going to go underground.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, huge respect must go to both Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on Sky, because it was the way they were so impassioned on Sunday on Sky Sports that sort of galvanized everybody. I think everybody, and we mentioned this the other day, everybody felt sorry for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the way that he was thrown under a bus. But it wasn't just the fans. It was and it wasn't deliberately coordinated, but and it didn't need to be coordinated, because everybody realized at first look that this proposal was so wrong. So the fans, yes, angry. The media, angry. Jurgen Klopp, brilliant when he said, I need to get this sorted. I don't like it. Pep Guardiola, Henderson, Patrick Bamford speaking from Leeds, Harry Maguire with Luke Shaw and others at United confronting Ed Woodward, which was apparently one of the reasons he's been forced to step down early. But then for me, the final nail in the coffin, I knew yesterday that it wasn't going to go through when Amazon became something like the third or fourth broadcaster to announce. And I thought Amazon would be the one that would save them by doing a deal. And I was wrong, and I'm so glad I was wrong, because Amazon said, we're not going to be involved with this, and we don't want to be involved with it, to follow on the heels of BT Sport, to follow on the heels of Sky and others, and DAZN. It was a magnificent, and I knew at that moment it had gone pear-shaped. And then with the government threatening to ban, which the British government can do now with Brexit, ban work permits for any of the players they want to sign from the Big Six, all of that sort of thing. It was just a huge gathering of, an amalgamation of anger from various stakeholders in the game. And there's a reason why that was that, because the proposals were so wrong.
The question now is this over? Which I don't believe is over.
It's not.
I don't believe it's over. And as John has rightly said, these football owners are talking among themselves. They are friends. Now, one is dead, one leg is gone now. Let us see how this thing is going to resurrect again in another form. Again, are they going to carry this anger into UEFA now? To make sure somebody somewhere is voted out of office, or they want to grab UEFA and the leadership of UEFA. Clearly, this is issues, because these guys are powerful. These guys have the money to turn about. What form are they going to come about is what next for us.
Just read all the statements that all the club issued, the very brief statements of clubs like Manchester United. Essentially, they said, we're pulling out of it. But the way they worded it, I think what that means is we reserve the right to look at it again in the future.
Yeah.
So the battle, listen, the battle this week has been won. The war is far from over. As a Manchester United fan, I want to see the Glazers driven out of Manchester, as Gary Neville said so well on Sky last night. They've dragged the good name of United through the mud. They've upset not just a small proportion of the fan base. They've upset 100% of the fan base. This club was built on youth football, attacking football. We had the Busby Babes. Half of that side lost their lives in the Munich air crash. And that tradition is, even those that were born after 1958, that tradition is so deeply ingrained, and they've tarnished the memories of everybody who's previously played in a red shirt. And as Gary Neville said last night, the Glazers need to be driven out of Manchester, and quickly.
This is what Boris Johnson said, and I'm quoting him here. He said, I welcome the decision taken by 6 English football teams not to join the European Super League. The announcement was the right result for football fans, for clubs, and for communities across the country. This morning, I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this house, I will have further such meetings later today. And this is interesting from opposition leader Keir Starmer. He said, and I quote him, can I join him in comments about the European Super League, which would have destroyed football? We now need to get on with other changes that are necessary. And again, I think this brings me back to the question I posed earlier, because there has been talks of the football being properly regulated here in England. And one might assume, in a way, this has more or less opened the doors for this to actually start gaining some momentum.
Oh, listen, this could turn out, these people involved in the Super League, they look like they've shot themselves in the foot in a way that nobody else has ever done, in terms of football. What they've done has pulled together, as we've already said, all the different stakeholders. And this isn't enough. Little apologies on Twitter aren't enough from those that apologised. We know now, those who were in any doubt before, and I can speak this as a Manchester United fan, those who were in any doubt about what the owners' intentions were, certainly towards, I'm not going to speak on behalf of other clubs, but towards Manchester United. If anyone was in any doubt now, they absolutely know now what those owners want for Manchester United. The government have threatened the FA with investigations and root and branch exercises into the governance of football 2 or 3 years ago, which was heavily resisted by the FA and by the Premier League, much to, which was wholly wrong in itself. Football and politics, they say it doesn't, sport and politics, you say it shouldn't sport, but government funding provides an awful lot of money towards sports clubs.
Yeah,
a lot of clubs have taken advantage of furlough schemes, and cash grants and loans over the last year. So if anyone was any doubt, government have every right to have a look at how the clubs are being operated now, because something is wrong. And as I said, the battle is over, but there's still a war to be won.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. This must have inadvertently opened that door for the sinister government moves to come and see what we can do. But look, this has also opened up the fact that I don't think anybody is going to oppose the issue of the management of clubs now, in terms of looking at the model of Bundesliga now, because that was what prevented the German clubs from joining this, because it's not so readily ownership. No, it has to be fan-based ownership now. How many stake do we have the fans to have? Where do we get the money from? Who is going to buy that? So that we begin to look at the proper structure now. They're also talking about wage cap, as we've seen in other sports, because whether we like it or not, it's part of what is driven this. They want more money to be able to have best access to everything only for themselves. Yes, but again, if you allow government too much nose into everything, you know exactly what is going to come out of it. I hope there's kind of unity in this one to say, okay, let's see what proposal you want to introduce before we allow you into this. Once you allow government into that, government is also a snake. It wants to eat a lot of resources from that. And don't forget that most of the resources of the Premiership also go into sports development, which is very crucial in Premiership.